Here is my second video that will help you get ready for the P chapter test that you will be having. And this time I'm going to do a little bit of different white background, see if that makes it a little easier to see. I want to do 3 problems that will review similar things that you'll have to do on your test over the P chapter. The first is a domain question. And we talked about you have to be able to find domain analytically. You're looking for restrictions such as a 0 in the denominator or a radical. So let's say we have this function, g of x equals 1 over radical 3 minus 5x. And the question on the test would say state the domain. And there are many ways to write it. I'll talk about each. What you're looking at is you have a denominator. It can't be 0. You have a radical. It cannot be a negative number. So the way you want to start this is that 3 minus 5x has to be greater than 0. It cannot equal 0 or it will give you 0 in the denominator. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 3 from both sides. Negative 5x is greater than negative 3. Then I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 5. You have to remember that when you divide by a negative, it will switch your inequality. So here is one way that you can write the domain. Domain is any number that is less than 3/5. If that's not an answer on a multiple choice question, then you can change it and write it like this. What this tells us is it is any number that is 3/5 or less. It is not including 3/5 because you'll notice there are no brackets here. This is a parentheses. So those are the 2 ways you could also write it in words. So that's the first review question that I wanted to go over. That came from the beginning of the P3 section if you're trying to look in your notes where that came from. The second question I want to go over is also a function notation, also from the P3 section. We're going to have a function, I'm going to call it h, which is x squared plus 5x minus 6. And the question on the test will ask you to evaluate h of x plus delta x minus h of x. This is very similar to what I asked you to do on the test video that you watched. The only difference is now we have an extra piece at the end, the minus f of x. So the first thing I want to do is take x plus delta x and put it here and here for x. So I'm going to have x plus delta x squared plus 5x plus delta x minus 6. It's really easy to forget the minus 6. Here's where it's different. Now you have this piece that says minus h of x. What that means is to subtract the original function. This is the original function. That is what h of x is. So I'm going to be subtracting, which will make it a negative x squared, a negative 5x, and a positive 6. Because when I subtract, it will change all of the signs in the original function. Now I'm ready for the actual algebra to begin. I'm going to square out the binomial, x squared plus 2x delta x plus delta x squared. And then I'm going to distribute the 5x plus 5 delta x. Then I'm going to write everything else that's left and step back and look and see what can be combined. I have a lot of terms. I can combine the x squared and the negative x squared, and that will actually cancel. I can do the same thing with the 5x and the negative 5x. That will cancel. And I have a negative 6 and a positive 6. That will cancel. The only thing that's left, I have these 3 terms, and they will not combine. So that is my final answer. You can rewrite it if you like. 2x delta x plus delta x squared plus 5 delta x. And that would be the answer for that one. That is our second one. A little bit longer problem. You will have a problem very similar to that on your test. We're going to do one more problem. And this is looking at how do we work with a function that is generic. What I mean by generic is it has some unknown value other than just x or y. So let's give you an equation that is 2kx squared plus 3y squared equals 5. And the problem would say that this equation has a point 2, negative 1 that it passes through. The question will then ask to find this generic value that I called k. I could use any letter. K is the one that the AP test uses a lot, so it's the one that I'll use a lot. So we know we have this particular equation. We know one point that it's through, and our job is to find k. What you'll notice is if we leave k alone, we can replace every other variable in here because we know what x is and we know what y is. So we're going to have 2k. We're going to replace the x with 2, because that's the x-coordinate, so we're going to square it, plus 3 times, we're going to replace the y with negative 1, square that, equal to 5. Simplify, so I know 2 squared is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, so we get 8k, plus negative 1 squared is 1, it's positive, times 3 is 3, equals 5. And now you have a basic linear equation. Subtract 3, 8k equals 2, divide by 8, we find that k equals a fourth. Biggest thing with these problems is don't be intimidated when a new letter shows up, like a K, L, P, whatever it might be. Go with what you know. In this case, you know an X and a Y, plug it in, and then figure out what's missing. And these 3 problems should help you get ready for your test.